Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to Apply. All right, so today I have Gil Baumgarten on the line, and he is founder and president of Segment Wealth Management. Gil, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, Gil. So excited about today's topic. So for all my audience that have been listening for a long time, you know I love bringing on authors and professionals and having them share their books with us. And I have a great one for you today by Gil, and it's called Foolish: How Investors Get Worked Up and Worked Over by the System. So what a topic, and awesome to have you on the show, Gil, and to go further into this. But we'll start this episode the way that we start them all, with our Mission Matters Minute. So, Gil, we at Mission Matters, we amplify stories for entrepreneurs, executives, and experts. That's our mission. Gil, what mission matters to you?
I want to make sure that investors keep both eyes open and understand what it is that they're doing and are trying to accomplish. So paying attention to what matters is very important for investors, and generally that has to do with taxes and fees. My firm here, Segment Wealth Management, tries to help people keep their eye on the ball and make sure that the decisions that they make feed their end goal, and they have to go into their decisions with the end goal in mind.
It's awesome. Love bringing mission-based executives and entrepreneurs on the line to share why they do what they do, like what excites them to get up in the morning, to go out into the marketplace and to make a difference in the lives of others. So great having you on. And I guess just to get us started, like how did you get, before we go into the book, before we go into, of course, your firm, so Segment Wealth Management, like how did you get onto this path to helping people in finance? Like where did it start for you?
Well, in school, junior high school, I found that I was really good at math. And I figured I would end up as an engineer or somehow get into the money business, which I didn't really understand the money business. But I did end up getting a job offer from E.F. Hutton, which is an old brokerage firm that today is resident inside of Morgan Stanley. So 10 mergers later, the old E.F. Hutton firm is inside of Morgan Stanley.
The youngins right now are thinking like, what is that? But I'm just old enough to know what you're talking about, Gil. Go ahead.
E.F. Hutton used to have famous commercials that said, when E.F. Hutton talks, people listen. And so that was a brokerage firm that I worked for. I was in the brokerage business for 25 years and just had some issues with the way the brokerages operate that I didn't think was as above board or as full disclosure as it should be. And so I decided to jump over to the fiduciary side of the business, which requires me to interact with clients by throwing all my cards on the table and asking them to do the same.
That's awesome. And so you've obviously had a long career in finance. And I always like to ask this question to the people like yourself who are really pioneers in the industry, like to help as many people as you have and to be in the industry that long and to still have heart and passion for it. I mean, it's a big deal that I don't think it's enough credit. But that being said, there's a whole nother group of individuals that are either graduating college or they're just getting started. They're thinking about potential options in terms of, and finance is one of those. I have a bias. I mean, I was in finance as an advisor and just in the financial services industry for almost 14 years before I transitioned into media. I've been doing this now full time for a little over 5 years, but I found some of the best people working in that industry and just the warmest people that were really caring and wanted to help a lot of people. So for me, I always saw it as a great option for individuals that are looking for a long-term career that they can help people. So that was my experience. I'd be interested to hear what kind of things would you tell in today's environment the young people that are maybe considering a career in financial services?
It can be very rewarding. I think that it's gotten a kind of a bum rap, and I think many young people today don't view financial services as a career path they want to pursue. A lot of that has to do with the volatility of 2008 and March of 2020, big losses. It creates some emotional turmoil that I think a lot of young people today just really don't want that kind of stress in their life. And so I think the financial service business is oftentimes overlooked by the current generation, and there's a huge need for younger advisors in the business. You were talking about me being in business a long time. I'll be 63 in September, and I've been doing this for 38 years. There's just not that many young people coming up that are highly qualified. So be a great opportunity for somebody in their 30s, 40s, even somebody in their 20s to look into it. So.
Yeah, it's awesome. Great advice. And I do think it's going to a bum rap just maybe by some of the cycles that, people have lived through that are of that age group, and they don't quite understand the other side of things. So I always like to bring that up. Let's switch gears a bit here. So I do want to dive into this book. So Foolish, How Investors Get Worked Up and Worked Over by the System. I mean, first off, great title. What was the inspiration for this?
Well, I've wanted to write a book for the past 10 years or so, and it's just such a monumental task. My daughter is quite the writer, and so all the words in the book are my words, but it was her job to turn it into a book. And so we worked together for a year and a half, essentially assembling the book. And when I first started writing it, I had kind of written a format for it, and I thought it was going to be kind of let me tell you how mutual fund works, and let me tell you how an annuity works. It was just sort of a explainer kind of book. And then the more we got into it, the more insightful it was to talk about the brokerage industry, the things that they do, how they make their money. There's so much opaqueness in the brokerage business, which is deliberate, by the way, and very few people really understand how it works. There are compatriots of mine in the brokerage business that don't fully understand the brokerage business. And I spent some time as a manager in the brokerage business in addition to being a broker. So I had a pretty good insight, and I'm super analytical. I want to know how everything works. A lot of times out, and some of the things that I found were kind of unpalatable. And the bigger my book of business got, the more people who were relying on me with more and more money, the more impactful it would become for me to make a change in my business model. And that's why 12 years ago I exited the brokerage business and started essentially an investor advocacy business where we learn what people are trying to do, and then we tell them the best way to solve for that, irrespective of how we get paid for that. And we only get paid one way. We charge people fees to tell them how the watch is made and to turn the system to their advantage. And so that's how the book came to be, was just that the parts about how people operate, the demons that people have that they're trying to digest, fear and greed mentalities and scarcity mentality versus an abundance mentality. And there's just all these patterns that repeat in people's decision making, and ego is a very big part of that. And so that's what the book ultimately became, was a third of it is about how the brokerage business operates, and 2/3 of it about how people operate.
And when I look at some of the titles in here, so for my audience, I'll read off a couple of them because to whet your appetite for the content. The House Always Wins, Wall Street, Friend or Foe, ? The Wonders of Wall Street, Check Yourself, Change Your Mind, Choose Differently, The Advisor Advantage. So I mean, all of these, the way the book is broken down, and what I do think is unique is what you mentioned. It's also educating you on the industry. And I like to tell people that, especially for those that shy away from maybe just finance in general, maybe they don't like numbers, maybe they don't like investing, maybe they, for them, a 401k is just a document that they had to fill out when they went to work, just like any other thing. But for those that kind of, for whatever reason, don't necessarily like it, it can be really intimidating, number one, and number two, not that fun for them to understand.
Absolutely.
What's going on. So what I like to normally start is when I'm talking to people is just to let them, and I'm obviously not in the money business anymore, but I like to just let them know that like all of these products, all these things that we see, these are products, they're inventions. A mutual fund, somebody thought that up. Somebody thought about putting a group of investments into a basket, calling it a mutual fund, and then selling it. So it's a product.
That's right.
That there will be more products that come out in the future, and there's products that maybe have timed out for different markets and different things. And it's always going to be, there's always going to be some type of alchemy there. So, when you think about it, so I bring this up because I'm looking at the content, like, is this the type of book that, let's just say, that a novice could pick up, or is this like really like high level? You have to have a strong financial background. Like, who is this book appropriate for in terms of everybody who has any interest in investing can get something out of the book.
Even a super sophisticated investor doing it for 30 years could get something from the tips, mostly the self-analysis, the come to Jesus meeting with yourself, if you will, just being transparent about the way you actually are. There's some of that that's in the book. But even a total neophyte would find much of it insightful about how the business operates. I think it would be most appropriate for who's had at least a little bit of experience, because some of the things that we talk about the industry is sort of referencing the fact that you'd have to have at least a basic knowledge of having been approached by somebody for you to be able to understand what it is that we're talking about. So I think somebody with zero interest and zero experience probably would not get much out of the book. But if you've had a little bit of experience or even a lot of experience, you're going to get more out of it.
That's awesome. Great words there. Let's switch focus a bit here. So tell us more about your firm. So Segment Wealth Management. So tell us a little bit more about the advisory.
You broke up there. I didn't hear the question fully. Could you repeat it, please?
Let's switch focus here a bit. Let's go into your firm. So Segment Wealth Management. Tell us a little bit more about the firm, please.
So I have 8 employees, and we are set up as a registered investment advisor. So if this year, some of your listeners will find this insightful. If you are delivering investment advice and you're getting compensated for it, there's only 2 ways that you can get compensated, and those require separate registration. So if you are giving advice and you're earning a commission, or you're marking something up, like you buy a bond for somebody and you mark it up to them at a higher price, that's considered a commission. If you're in that business, you have to work for a broker-dealer, so that would be a Merrill Lynch or an E-Trade or whomever, and you have to get paid a commission or a fee that is considered a commission. If you're giving advice and you are getting a fee for it and you consider yourself a fiduciary, you have to be registered with the SEC. And that means you cannot work for a brokerage firm and you cannot earn a commission. And so that's the business model I wanted to get into, because I already considered myself a fiduciary even though I was in the brokerage business, but many of the hoops that I had to jump through just really did not set well with me. And so that registration as a broker-dealer would be regulated by FINRA, which is the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, as opposed to the SEC. And the SEC regulates the advice business. So that just gives you a little bit of the backstory on where your allegiances have to be. If you work for a brokerage firm, your first allegiance is to the brokerage firm. If advice firm, your first allegiance is to the customer.
That's awesome. And so in terms of the types of individuals that you work with, like who's typically a good fit to work with your team, whether it's is it family people, is it just executives, is it just entrepreneurs? Like, who's typically a good fit to work?
It's generally entrepreneurs, primarily because they have a wide spectrum of experiences and a wide spectrum of need. We also have a relatively large investment minimum. We have $1.2 billion of client money. We only have 200 not even 200 clients. So our average client is about $7 million. So typically it's somebody entrepreneurial that's going to have those kind of resources, which would be kind of the starting point of developing a relationship with us or a firm like ours. So we are kind of in the ultra high net worth space. We don't do financial planning. Financial planning to me is a activity for the aspiring wealthy, somebody who's trying to make sure they don't run out of money in their lifetime. Generally, our clients aren't concerned about running out of money because they've already accumulated enough. They're more concerned about giving it to their kids and, giving it to charity and philanthropy, and managing assets with an eye towards philanthropy is a very large part of our business.
It's awesome. Gil, well, I have to say it has been great having you on the show today, learning more about your background, your expertise in the industry, also segment wealth management, and then, of course, let's not forget that book, So Foolish, How Investors Get Worked Up and Worked Over by the System, and all the hard work that you put into getting your knowledge into this book, and, of course, your daughter who made it a book. So a big shout out to her out there working with Dad.
Yep. Her name is Allie Dupree. Allie Dupree is my daughter, and she did a fantastic job with helping me with the book. So
awesome. Well, good work on that one, Allie, getting Dad's words out there and getting them into a book. So that's awesome. And I will leave the link to the book and all that good stuff. So we'll have that in the show notes. And if somebody wants to follow up to learn more about segment wealth management, Gil, what's the best way for them to do that?
They can Google that, and my web address is segmentwm.com. We also write a free blog, so segmentwm.com/blog, and you can sign up for the topics that we write about. Nobody's ever going to call you. We just do this as a sort of public service. You can just log on to the blog site and sign up for it, and you'll get an email from us every couple of weeks with investment thoughts.
Awesome. And we'll put that link in the show notes as well so that people can just click on it and head right on over.
Great.
Speaking to the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters, engaging with the platform, we're all about bringing on mission-based business owners, entrepreneurs, and executives and having them share why they do what they do. Like, how are they making a difference in the marketplace? Like, what gets them fired up to go out there and to make a difference? If that's the type of content you're into, or if that sounds interesting or exciting, we definitely welcome you to hit that subscribe button, because we have many more mission-based individuals coming up on the line, and we don't want you to miss a thing. And Gil, really, it has truly been a pleasure. Thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you. Appreciate it.